A very good evening and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program. Now tonight we've handled this topic before a couple of times, not just once actually, but the number of questions that continue to come up every after we're done with the topic brings it home just how important it is. So tonight our topic will be talking about securing your marriage through registration, the impact of non-registration of a marriage and forms of recognized marriages in Uganda. Now the last time we handled this topic, we were talking about the importance of marriage registration to women in regard to succession laws. That was a bit specific. Tonight we'll get into a bit of detail about generally marriages and registration. So my guest for this evening, I'll start with Fiona Baiga, who is right next to me. She's the Director of Civil Registration at Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Welcome, Fiona.
Thank you, Josephine.
All right. Philip Kalibala, who is the Senior Registration Officer at URSB as well.
Yes.
You're welcome, Philip.
Oh, thank you, Josephine.
And finally, Reverend William Ongeng, who is a Provincial Secretary with the Church of Uganda. Very warm welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's say it as it is. So clearly we cannot emphasize the importance of this particular topic. So before we start our conversation, I'd like to give some figures that, Philip, you shared with me earlier in the week. And so you told me that the licensed number of churches that we have is 2,687. The compliant churches are 434. And this is in Uganda generally.
Yes, it's in Uganda generally and of course exclusively.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And then the marriages conducted per financial year, civil marriages between 2015 and 2016 were 1,430. 2016-2017 were 1,175. 2017-2018, 1,145. Customary marriages in 2015-2016 were 22. 2016-2017 were 289. 2017-2018 were 124. And the faith-based marriages in 2015-2016 were 4,778. 2016-2017 were 10,524. And 2017-2018 were 4,808. So when I'm looking at the figures of 2017-2018, they're a bit low. Is this because we are still midway through the year, right? So this is from the beginning, from January up to where we are?
Yes, from January up to where we are still, we are yet to conclude this year. So information on statistics is still open.
Okay.
It's not concluded.
Okay.
But we are very optimistic. Since previously this year, we've been very proactive and we've made a deliberate decision to go into society and tell them that, look, you require this registration. So it's open and we believe that the figures will be higher.
Well, URSB seems to have taken quite a bit of interest in marriages lately. Why are marriages so important? And this is also to you, Reverend. Why are they such a big deal? Also, we see that because of the number of people that take interest in these particular topics.
Maybe I first have to substantiate on the challenge of this year's returns.
Yes.
And you know, we have gone through Lent period. Some churches don't do weddings during Lent period, and marriages are not allowed, especially like the Anglican Church and the Catholic Church. We don't do that. So that means that number, I would believe it is correct because many people were like in the
fasting
season of fasting.
Okay, so going forward, we should expect the numbers for the rest of the year to be much higher.
To be much higher.
Okay.
I believe that.
Yes. So, Reverend, marriages, why are they such a big deal?
Yeah, it's a big deal because that is the basis of the society. A society that doesn't marry has no society, and there's no growth. And this is also God's agenda because God himself ordained it, and he instituted marriage for people to continue producing the procreation story. You know, it is important that we do that. So since we are all God's creation, we need to do what he tells us to do. So I think that is why marriage is very, very important.
Is there a social effect of marriages on our society?
Yes, it is. There is. Thank you, Josephine. The law prescribes that there should be a marriage under the Article 31, I think, of the Constitution. It says a man and a woman can marry if they are of age, and therefore it creates a legal union that is recognized. Okay, so marriage is a legal union between a man and a wife that is recognized by the law, and therefore society therefore would aspire to have legally recognized marriage unions.
Okay.
So yeah.
So
maybe on the other hand, also to add to that point, whether there is a social effect. First of all, we have to look at it legally, that the Parliament of Uganda saw it fit to say that these marriages, relationships which are legal, as Fiona said, should be registered. So you can imagine that maybe the government is envisioning that there are certain advantages that will accrue to people who are in legal relationships. But even before we get there, even now we're already feeling that, we see it, because there are so many things that are attached to the marriage relationship, and it has to be legal. We talk about things to do with people traveling, people moving out as couples, or maybe people having benefits at work, or maybe during death for a living spouse to actually benefit from
succession.
Yes, succession.
Okay.
From whatever you've accrued. You know, people who work all the time, you have an SSF, you're insured here and there. People have hundreds of millions of shillings in different accounts, and for you to legally benefit from that, definitely, if you claim that you're someone's spouse, then it has to be a legal relationship.
There has to be proof.
Yes.
Okay, so we keep talking about marriages. Which ones are the marriages that are that will be recognized?
In Uganda, we have basically three types of marriages that are legally recognized. We have the customary marriage, which is marriage in Buganda would be Kwanjula, Kuhinjira in Western Uganda, which is a marriage that is celebrated according to the rights or customs of that particular tribe. Then we have faith-based or religious marriages, and under these we have those celebrated in churches, places of worship, Islamic marriages, and also Hindu marriages.
Okay.
And then we have the civil marriage, which is celebrated in Kampala at the Registrar General's office in URSB, and in the districts at the Chief Administrative Officer.
Okay. Well, when we look at the figures, I see 2015, 2016, the total of customary marriages was just 22. How is that possible?
I think the figure indicates the marriages that have been registered, the customary marriages that have been registered. The ones that have actually occurred are many. I mean, you have Kwanjula every weekend, every other weekend, yes. So it's and that is because there has been very little information, maybe, among the public about the advantages of registering customary marriage.
Okay. Well, how does the church now play into this equation of registration?
I think the church has a big role to do that, because we played a major part of making the marriages recognized, in the sense that if it is solemnized in the church, that means the church has a function to play on that. So when a church does that, then the church has the responsibility now to file to URSB the returns of whatever is done within those churches, which are also licensed. We just don't give it anyhow, because those churches which are not licensed, you do marriage there, they will ask you that let it first be licensed, which is a requirement. So the church has a role in that it makes sure that these things are done according to the laws of Uganda, because the church does its marriages, it does its wedding in conformity with the Ugandan laws on marriages. So I think the church has something to do there.
Well, I think I've had a conversation with, I think it was Charles from URSB on one of the shows we had, and it was about, we're still talking about marriages, and it came up again about how some churches do not file returns, and therefore the couple is going to pay that price.
Yes, and which is, thank you, Josephine, which is why we are really on a campaign to make sure that people understand their duties as role bearers. Churches have a duty, a responsibility under the Marriage Act to file returns every month of the marriages that they have conducted. And why is this important? Because it affects the couple if their marriage is not registered. It may not be immediate, but when the time comes when you need to have a certified copy of a marriage certificate and it's not on the marriage register, URSP will not file it, will not certify it. A case in point is of a lady who had gotten a job in an international organization, and she needed proof that she was married because, of course, the organization also offered benefits to her family.
Okay. And
she just had 2 days to go, and she got word back from the headquarters that all is set except we haven't. We need your marriage certificate certified. And so she makes her way to URSP, and we find that she's not on the marriage register. Lucky for her, the church was licensed. So now the church was in Western Uganda, she's in Kampala, and she has to go back. You know, it was very distressing for her, but suffice it to say, she managed to get it done. But
in 2 days?
She managed to get it done, yes, in 2 days.
We are so used to bureaucracy here in Uganda that I'm skeptical. In 2 days? How did that happen in 2 days?
Oh, she did.
It does happen because the church already has your record. Consider that the church is just holding back something actually it can do. Because if we send you back to your church, it already has your record. Actually, it has put you in the church register. What we only want is that there are certain forms they are supposed to fill. So it just becomes a formality. If you find the reverend there or the father there, they will do it instantly, and then you rush back to Kampala, you bring it on the national register, and then we issue with a certified copy.
And of course, you'll need a cover letter from the church.
I think that is where now
the
processes are very important. And that is where I think the link between URSB and churches must be strengthened. I call upon the URSB to continue moving down. Don't speak at the high level, because high level here there's bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But when you go down, we are the actual people doing it. Like if I own a particular church that I lead, and the marriage takes place there, it is me, the pastor, who officiated over that marriage. My responsibility to take that the file, to file it with URSB. If I don't, then the person who has been married is in problems as they are giving this scenario. It is a very nasty scenario. For example, Josephine, you are there, you want to go somewhere, and your things are ready for you to go, and they're saying, it is me, the pastor, who has not filed. How would you feel about it?
And moreover,
that would be bad.
The shock, actually, Reverend, the shock that Ugandans suffer, it's really heartbreaking. You can imagine and feel for them. Imagine that you've been in this marriage or purported marriage. From our perspective, you've been there for 5 years or 10 years. So you've never thought at any one time that actually you are never in a marriage. You never thought at any one time that someone can query your marriage. You've been together, you are in church, you are married, the whole world witnessed you. So here you are. You're coming to URSP.
You've posted all the pictures on Facebook.
You've convinced the whole world that actually you're married.
And you have sent invitation. They came.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
also convinced. That's where it becomes very heartbreaking. So here you are, you make your way to URSP, you climb up our stairs, all just because if you went for a job and they say just go and get it certified, you believe that actually the process should be as simple as it is. You know, just to reach there and someone tells you 2 scenarios. Either your marriage is invalid, one, because your church didn't have a license by the time you married. You know, that one you can collapse. And then the other one of telling you that, you know what, well, you had the license to marry, but your church didn't file a return. That one can put you in tears. That one is easier. You can deal with that than the other scenario. So that's what's most heartbreaking. So when we tell our partners, the church, that we should not let Ugandans go through this, just be compliant, just play your role, and let Ugandans know that this is a requirement under the Constitution. If they have to pay for it, let them pay for it. Somehow when we are at URSP, we don't really see, I know maybe Reverend will help us here, we don't really see any, why there should be an issue between the state and the church in as far as that's concerned.
Reverend, is there an issue?
There is no issue. I don't see any issue in this. It is just about each one taking responsibility about what they're supposed to do. Okay. So if you don't do it, then the issue is not with government and the church. The issue with that particular concerned person.
At what point can I get to URSB and I think I'm married, and they tell me actually you're not married? What would have been the situation?
They are push factors, okay? They are push factors because we have people who are on the register. For instance, our compliant churches. We have compliant churches. I don't think, am I allowed to say them? I'm making that right. But we have our compliant churches. Yes. So the other time we were surprised, there was a couple that wanted to have a remarriage in Kigali. And they came to us, and they had married in a particular church in Kampala. Within 2 months, they were already on the register. So they are those first churches. But, you know, you don't have to worry. Just suffice it to know that the people are playing their role to effect that registration because that's what the Constitution requires. Everyone who is in the marriage registration line. So you really don't have to worry. You just have to come up. There are push factors in the market that happen, you know. You are at the brink of an interview, and then they say, okay, you've already claimed that you are married, but you're lacking...
Give the proof.
Yeah, you're lacking a valid marriage certificate.
But is there an incidence where, even if I had the certificate, right, maybe from the church, that was never actually a marriage? Maybe if the pastor or the reverend was not licensed or the church is not licensed, what happens then?
There are instances, yeah, when couples come up and then sadly find out that, yes, they're not married. And those instances include where the church wasn't licensed because it's not a licensed place of worship, and therefore, yes, they're not. Okay. Yeah. That's the most
yes, it's even criminal, by the way, to do that knowingly. It's not just, the church just doesn't, it's not just about not recognizing you, but if there is a church that is actually knowingly doing this, you know, I think just briefly, churches should know as they are watching that marriage can only occur in your church if you have a license from the minister. So we can start from here saying that, please take note of that you can only marry when you have a license. So starting with next Saturday, as I've said it here, if a church now goes ahead to conduct marriage, despite the fact that now it knows that we've put them on notice, that will be a criminal act under the laws of Uganda.
So
and
for
actually the church and the pastor become culpable.
So they can be taken to the police and... Yes, so whoever is getting married next Saturday, first ask the church to show you their license and the person marrying you as well.
I think also...
come to our office
and first check.
You can come to our office and make a search. We usually implore people who are going now through the wedding meetings because that's where it is. You know, those are one of the things. And part of the church fees, you should look out part of the church fees. The 35 for filing that marriage return should be part of that. That is the cost that you're going to incur.
All right. So we need to tell all the chairmen of wedding meetings to remind the couple that
not only wedding, but Kwanjula
and Kwanjula meetings. Yes. All right, let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, Nile Room, and we're talking about marriages today. And so I wanted to ask, and Reverend, this will be for you.
Yes.
When a couple decides to get married, where do they start from?
I think when a couple decides to get married, first of all, they should show that they love each other. When you show that, then you bring it to the church. You come and share with your pastor and say, I think I want to get married to this beautiful lady, to this handsome man. When that is done, then the process begins from there. We register you at the level of the church, and your banns of marriage are published for 21 days. That is 3 consecutive weeks. Every Sunday they will publish to show that there are some people trying to do something which is of interest to this community. So after the 21 days, then the following Saturday, if you choose Saturday, if you choose whatever day, or Sunday, they will bring you to your wedding. Then the pastor has to do that. So when you do that, then you have to sign certificates, because we have certificates that also remain with the church. And we file the other one with the same information, which is on the one for the church, to send to the URSB.
Okay.
That is when now the legality of it takes effect, as we are saying. So just find somebody you love, tell us, convince her that you love that person. Just don't bring them because you want a show for a particular thing. We want you to live. That's why the issue of the society is important, which you ask about marriage as a society.
The effect.
It affects the society because we don't want people to stay single Every evening you are hearing people shouting, oh, so-and-so's son has been caught with so-and-so's daughter. That is not good for the society. We want things legally done so that everybody will say, yes, these are people, we know they are married.
So is this the same process for the other churches? So what's the process for the Muslim sect? What happens there?
I think the law provides that, let me just backtrack. Each marriage has a law that governs it. So he's just, he was giving what happens in a Church of Uganda marriage or Christian marriage. So the Muslim will also do their marriage according to what their faith provides. And I think part of it is that the girl must be given mahari, I think, which is like a gift before the wedding. And but they follow what the Muslim faith says. And like I said, the customary also follow what the custom of the girl says. But what is universal to them all is that the couple must be 18 and above. They must not be related to each other, and it must be a man and a wife and a woman under Ugandan law.
Okay, so you said under Ugandan law. I was going to ask about something else, but it clearly doesn't apply now. So how does a church marriage relate to a marriage under the Marriage Act?
The Marriage Act is the law that governs church marriages. So it's the law that makes it possible for the reverend to carry out his duties as a minister wedding people. How it provides for the church marriage, it provides that a person who's going to get married in a place of worship that can do so according to the rights and norms of that religion or denomination. It also provides that the place of worship must be licensed. And it also lays out the procedure for registration. So
what is the procedure for registration?
I'll ask Philip to answer that.
Oh, maybe should I pass it on to Reverend? No. Okay, of course, Reverend will compliment on that, but our procedures, there is a form we call Form F. Form F. Now, that form might be not known. It's not your responsibility as a couple to know that form. It's not really your issue. It's the issue of the churches. They should have that Form F. That is the form that captures the information that we put on the National Register. So when couples go through the process of marriage, Reverend here takes note of them. He also has a register for the church, by the way, because he can also register in the church.
Which actually bears the same information like that in Form F.
Okay.
So now he gets that extract, that Form F, and he fills it in. He's guided there, the requirements, the names of the parties, the age and everything. And then usually he fills them out in triplicate. So every quarter, every 3 months, we expect returns to be brought to the register, to the Registrar General's office. And that's just about it. So when they bring that information, we capture that information and we put it on the National Register.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I add,
yes, please,
Josephine, that when the couple, sometimes the couple can come and are proactive and they want to have the registration done by themselves. So what would happen is you go to your church with your certificates, and then the church will give you that Form F, and they will give you a cover letter and a certified copy of that return, which you'll now bring back to us at URSB, pay 35,000 shillings, and then we put your marriage on the register. At that point,
do we pay this 35,000 at URSB or to a bank? And
you pay it to a bank of your
okay.
choice, which accepts money for URA. At that point, you'll be entered on the register. Most people at that point also ask, now what do we have to show that we are on the register? At the moment, we do not issue any certificate of registration because it's not provided for by the law. But the clients or the customer or the general public has suggested to us that that would be advisable. So that's something we are taking on board as we look at the amendment of the...
Okay.
So I think that is very, very important, that point. We really need to pursue it to the point that these people who file their marriages, they also need us. They ask us, now that you have filed my marriage with URSP, what shows that you have reached there? They don't have computers to check their names. They don't have the websites to go on. They want physical things. So I think that is an area we really need to do something.
For the couples.
For the couples,
But
yes.
for the churches, if the returns are filed by the church, we do give an acknowledgement letter that says that on the 28th of April, we received 20 returns of this serial number and for these couples, and they were registered with us.
Okay. So we've heard of incidences where a man maybe marries one woman in maybe a customary way or civil, and then goes ahead now to do a church wedding with a faith-based maybe wedding or marriage with somebody else. How do we ensure things like that do not happen?
I think that marriage, we really need to safeguard against it. Because if somebody marries at the customary, that is where the church picks it up now. If they are not yet registered with URSB at the customary level, and they're willing to bring their marriage to church, which is a common thing we do, because we don't want people to begin bringing their marriages before fulfilling also the customary. You know, the customary is also the basis for societal.
But what if somebody did a customary marriage with maybe one woman, and then maybe comes to church
with another
woman?
That is not allowed. That's why we give the 21 days.
But how do you know?
The 21 days.
If nobody comes up in the 21 days to say something, maybe the second woman is in the village somewhere and there is no access to,
Josephine, these things, there is nothing you do under the water that will not come out.
Okay,
let me use that phrase.
Yes, Reverend.
Okay.
Maybe that's a very important point. Let me just say, and Reverend, this one I'm calling upon you. We were discussing in office that, you can take due diligence. For starters, you can carry out due diligence. So you're going to marry him, and then you say, you know what, let me just pass at the Registrar General's office to see whether there is any record in this person's name. So, yes, we are, you see, people are having, people fall in love. That's what happens, precedes this marriage. So maybe they say it's blind. So I can't even suspect that maybe Josephine, no, she doesn't seem like she's married, you don't want to think about it. But taking due diligence has nothing to do. You can even come silently and just say, you know what, I need to check whether there is a record in the names of Kalibala Philip under what? Under any church marriage system or under any customary marriage system, okay? And then you can be safe. Maybe the churches can help us, but this is what we say. Even if we don't go through that, marriage is so much you rely on the information of the person who is actually going to marry. For you, when you carry out any investigations, you can only go that far. All the information is held by that person, and actually those persons are held liable if they misinform society on their status. Honestly, it's them that bear liability. So if you confused Reverend here, or you came to us and you gave us all the information to show that you are not married, by the time a subsequent marriage takes place, it's on you. You've lied on record, you've lied on oath. The other thing we can say is that...
What happens? Is there like
it's criminal to lie on oath. It's criminal, really. And then the other thing is that when it's all said and done, subsequent marriages are always null and void as against a prior marriage if it was legal. So someone can say, if we need to contest these marriages, that is the issue that's going to come up. To say, you went into this marriage after you had already contracted a marriage with me. So the subsequent marriage legally under the law is null.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe to add on to that, Josephine, is that that also then makes the point even more important, the point of registration more important. Because if the customary marriage had been registered, okay, and if the church had done its due diligence and said, this couple is getting married, let's just check,
Okay.
Yes. And then they find it, then that would give them ground not to marry you. So I think on both sides, on the woman's side, maybe the woman in the village, if she'd had hers registered, then she can actually always come up even at the last minute, you know,
Yes,
before they marry you and they say, is there anybody here who has...
That is actually on the wedding day.
On the
for
wedding
example,
day.
wedding day. We
Yes,
still ask, is there
still ask.
anybody with any impediment that would allow this marriage not to continue?
You
Please,
come up with your copy, they will stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
They will,
Have you had any maybe experiences you could share with us of people who have come to register because something happened, they were required to register? Aside from the ones who need the travel document, like the other lady, but somebody else?
We have cases of people needing to travel, once again, but this time it's not because of pleasure, but maybe medical.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had incidences where one particular gentleman needed to travel and had an operation planned and was being escorted by his wife, who was going to be his caregiver. And he had his visa, and the embassy had no problem giving the wife the visa. Only she needed to prove she was his wife, and which meant she needed to have a certified copy of her marriage certificate. Unfortunately, the marriage was not on the register, and let's just say it was a very tense, I think 48 hours as well for them. Yes, and you know, eventually this story ends well. Josephine?
You keep saying 48 hours. Are you sure this stuff gets done in 48 hours?
Well, it just so happened that these ones were done in 48 hours. But sometimes if you say have to go back, say, to Karamoja, or you have to go some other place, even if it's Mkono and they don't have the records properly kept, it might take you a bit of time. Or, as in some cases, the marriage was actually not registered because also the church wasn't licensed. Yes, so it's a double tragedy.
Oh. Yeah, but there are also instances of push factors. When court disputes are coming up, with court disputes, people come to register, or if they envision that will happen, they do come to register if contests are going to take place. So apart from just saying the good...
What kind of contests?
On the issue when marriage becomes an issue, you know,
okay.
whether your marriage is valid or not. If you are contending with someone in a court system and the marriage now will be an issue before court. So people usually, lawyers make searches on our register. They advise clients to come and register, because if you know, even during court sessions, if you decided to register your marriage, it can still be taken on. There is nothing that will stop you. So the issues of validity, you can complete the registration. So people come to us. But we also got a unique scenario where now someone came to register their customary marriage after hearing that her husband had already contracted a civil marriage. So she had envisioned...
With somebody else?
Correct. So she had envisioned that there's going to be now a conflict here. So what she was trying to preempt is that even her own marriage will be on the register. So if they go to court to try and discuss that marriage, it will be now an issue whose marriage is valid.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's take another short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We are coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, Nile Room. And we're talking about marriages today. So what determines, for example, a couple's choice on what kind of marriage they're going to go for? Finances? What is it? That they'll either go for a civil or customary or a faith-based? Usually.
I think it comes out of them. Yeah, they are the people to choose, because nobody is ever forced into a marriage. It is your consent of choosing to do whatever you want to do with your marriage and your relationship.
Okay.
But sometimes it's circumstances as well. And I'm looking at civil marriages. Most couples that come choose to have something that is affordable, something that is hassle-free, and which is convenient. And that's what we offer as civil. However, you could have couples that have different religions, and they somehow cannot decide which church to go to. Or you have issues of your parents do not agree with the other man's faith. You know, we have those issues coming up. Yeah, so those can dictate where a couple goes.
Okay.
Maybe again, Josephine, to add to that point, to use the phrase, the social media catchphrase, Uganda Zabo, but not in an ironic way like it's always used on social media, you know, to show contrast. But we are very lucky in this country that we have multiple marriages that are legally recognized. So you see that Ugandans have options, okay? First of all, we have customary, which is the basis. So it's like the beginning marriage, which we presume almost everyone has before you proceed to any other marriage. And you can stop at that. And we are telling actually Ugandans to come and register that marriage before they even think about anything else, you know, that to avert future issues in relation to marriages. So after that, you know, that one is a given. You know, it's very hard for you to have any other before this. Then after that, you have these options. If you are into faiths, if both of you are Muslims, you can have that. If you are into Christian denominations, any of them, and I think in Uganda there are over 10, okay, Christian denominations, you can have that marriage. Or you can come and have a civil one with us, as Fiona has said. So what URSB is doing at the moment is that we are putting all the marriages on table, so that Ugandans can come up to choose either one of them that works for you, really, because all of them are legal. Either one of them that works for you will be befitting. For us, part of our obligation, because we know civil, we are making a case for civil marriages. The church will make a case for theirs, the faith Muslims, and customary.
Okay. Is there a way in which registering your marriage protects your family?
Yes. Registration, the benefits of registration of marriage can be seen in many ways. For instance, if under the Mortgage Act, I think, if you're going to mortgage family land or a matrimonial home, you need to get the consent of the spouse, spousal consent. And if that's not obtained, that mortgage may be a nullity. So you see that the family is being protected. But of course, then the spouse, you have to prove that you're a spouse, you need to have a valid marriage certificate, or one that's registered, because then it's like prima facie evidence. You don't need any other proof to show that it is a valid marriage. As far as benefits are concerned, if I am entitled to benefits because of by virtue of being married, then my children can get that benefit. My husband can get that benefit. Okay, as a family, we can get that benefit. As a family as well, of course, in terms of succession, if a husband, your spouse someone's spouse dies, and you have matters relating to insurance, life insurance, you have matters relating to mutual funds, you have benefits as a result of that, your family can benefit from that. If, of course, you prove that you're a spouse. And how do you prove that you're a spouse?
Marriage certificate.
Yeah, which must be registered.
So I was going to ask about things like health insurance, maybe in the workplace.
Yes.
Does that also?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, all those are benefits, primarily, but also to add on what Fiona is saying, especially if we look at the family, we look at the spouse, always the lady, the woman, and the kids. And even at divorce, you know, the term marital home can only be used when people were legally married, because that actually is what protects you. If you are never into marriage, no matter how much property you have, because court, you are not giving court an option to make it. If you're not married, then there is no divorce anyway. Okay, so no matter how much property that you have. So you can have your 10 kids and you are never in a legal relationship. But if you're in a legal relationship, the children they can benefit from the marital home, the same thing as one of the spouses who is a victim, they can always benefit.
I'm sure somebody at home is probably wondering, maybe they've been living together with somebody for over maybe 5-8 years, and you're saying now that that doesn't count when it comes maybe to property if one of the spouses is out. Does it not?
One of the partners.
Sorry, partners is out.
You don't have the claim on anyone's property. Why would you be claiming? First of all, you are not even in a legal relationship. That's where it starts. And in Uganda, we don't presume marriage, really. I understand maybe in Kenya they do it, or they were planning to do it. You can live together for 30 years, but you have nothing to yourself. The state doesn't recognize you.
Okay. Legally, you're not married, but we have society presumes marriage, and then presumes further that because they do so, it is actually a legal marriage. But the truth of the matter is that it isn't.
Okay. Well, Reverend?
So
yes.
I think the church has now a big role.
Yes, because I was going to ask you, how can the church work with the government to ensure that things like this are happening?
Yes, I think the first part that the church should do with the government is to come to terms. Because in the initial, we said there is no disagreement between the two entities. So the church must come out to understand what URSB is doing very well, because they have a congregation, they have a platform where they can put this very, very well.
And they have a duty to their citizens too.
Exactly, to make sure that all marriages in the villages, in maybe somebody now hearing from that far, know that even my marriage, the church has a stake in it. The church wants it to be legal. So we want it to be registered. So please, go to your pastor. Tell them, either you are customary married, there is still opportunity that church can still drive you to be registered, so that we see families living in harmony.
Well, is there anything that the church needs from the government before they celebrate a marriage?
I think this information is very important about what to be done.
Okay.
Especially even those forms that we need to have in our respective licensed churches should be there, available, so that everybody is aware about it, so that a pastor cannot officiate of a marriage and say, me I have not seen even form.
Oh, I
form
didn't
F,
know.
Or I didn't know.
Yeah.
So this form Fs must be near us, so that the church can do that thing. By the way, it is just a matter of like, after the service of a marriage, of a wedding, filling it there and there. And next Monday, the pastor gets on his bus call, goes to the nearest offices. Yes. Maybe what I require from the government also, let these offices be very near people. Very, very near. If possible, for the beginning, all the important towns, or all the towns, all the 100, and how many districts do we have?
120.
112?
Almost 120.
Whatever number it is, all those should have a representation. Okay. So that whatever is done in that village X where Reverend so-and-so comes from can easily come to that town for that day.
I think just before Reverend finishes, we have tried to expand, of course, very much dependent on the resources that come from government, but we have tried to go into the major towns also to reach out to the most rural areas. But this season, as we've been going out, being proactive this financial year, is that we have these materials at our offices, and we have been given, especially the registers and the Form Fs. Yes. So when the churches come to us, we have been giving them these documents, yes, free of charge. Okay.
Yes, Fiona.
Yes, to say that we have engagements with the various duty bearers. These include, for civil marriages, the chief administrative officers. We have also had engagements with duty bearers regarding customary marriages, who are the town clerks in the towns, and sub-county chiefs. Okay. And for faith-based organizations, we have met with most of the leadership, and right now we are now looking to cascade to the lower parts of their organizations. Okay. But as far as URSB is concerned as well, we have the duty.
And this is your closing remark?
Yes, we have the duty to issue marriage register books, marriage notice books, and Form Fs. And those, like Philip has said, are available at our offices. We also have a program where we're going to be giving them, distributing them, using our regional offices in Mbale, in Gulu, in Mbarara, and in Arua, plus in the central region as well.
All right, thank you, Fiona. Philip, would you like to share
your
closing
I would just
remarks
like Ugandans to know that registration of marriages, please be proactive, okay? Please be proactive. It's your right and it's our duty. Just find out if your marriage was registered. We have been telling the churches, let's not go into contention with this, because this is a constitutional requirement. But also tell Ugandans that you have options of marriages. When we are on television or radio, we say that we cannot complete everything. Just come to our offices to make inquiries. Don't cost anything. You can ask as many questions as you want. On 4th floor, Georgian House, usually behind CPS, Central Police Station, next to YWCA.
So you're talking to the ones watching in Kampala?
Yeah.
Yes, because as far as civil marriages are concerned, for us, our jurisdiction is Kampala. Oh. Yes, the other ones are taken care of by the COW, but that's the central office for marriage registration. Okay. So all the information, you can get it from us. Please be proactive Ugandans and come to our offices for information.
All right, Reverend?
I think the church has a stake, and a very important one, that we really need to come up and team with the URSB so that we can do these things together.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much for joining us for this conversation for today. And like we mentioned earlier, the chairman of the wedding meetings need to also be proactive.
Yes, they should be proactive.
And double guess, yes.
And double guess and find out.
Kwanjulas and
yes.
All right. Thank you so much once again for taking the time to speak with us on marriages. Well, that's it for our show for tonight. Coming up is NTV Weekend Edition. Keep it NTV.